If you are in a toxic, abusive relationship, what's gonna get you out is gonna be therapy, and you're gonna need supportive resources to get you out. If you are sick, talking about when we were talking about the situation with my daughter's father, money. All of these resources really ground you into realizing money helps you. It can give so much freedom.
There's a topic that comes up constantly whenever I speak with women about money, and that is worthiness. So today we have Christine Gutierrez, who is a psychotherapist and a mentor and a facilitator. She's the author of I Am Diosa, and her brand new book is out. It is called I Am Worthy. Christine is an absolute trailblazer in the field of women's spiritual transformation. Her ability to tell the story of how we can turn any experience and any background into fodder for our greatest aliveness is absolutely gorgeous and inspiring. And in this conversation, we talk about her journey of becoming sober and her own money healing journey, how we conflate consumerism and toxic capitalism with abundance and how we can stop doing that, how we are rewarded for over-functioning and also often rewarded for our struggle, and how we can find the sweet spot in between, and so much more. Christine's work has been featured by Oprah Daily, The Kelly Clarkson Show, Latina Magazine, Ebony, and more. And I think you are just going to fall in love with her. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for being here, Christine. This is so much fun. You and I have been circling each other for probably 15 years, if not more.
Wow.
Like in the same communities from, baby days in New York.
That's right. Baby days in New York.
So I was so happy to hear from you. And I was like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Your new book is out.
Yes.
Like, I Am Worthy. So my show is called Plenty. And I literally, the topic of all money work is worthiness.
Absolutely.
Especially for women, which is, 98% of our community. And there was something in your book that I really loved. And I want to start there. We'll see where we go.
Yeah.
But it is how we conflate capitalism with abundance and how it creates cognitive dissonance. Can you talk about how our tendency to conflate capitalism with abundance keeps us limited and kinked up in terms of our flow of abundance of all kinds, financial and otherwise?
Yeah. So for me, when, really the inspiration behind this book and all of the work that I do is around how can we return back to that state of knowing that we are worthy, inherently deeply worthy beyond anything, right? Like going back to that core of I am worthy because. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that so often we look for things on the outside to make us feel worthy. And in this case, if it's money, right, we're saying, okay, well, if I have X, Y, and Z, then I will feel good enough. Then I will feel abundant. And the truth is that the overflow of knowing that we are in our connection to our deep inherent worth is the first place of our overflow, is the first place of our worthiness. From that place, then we can have those outside things flow. So if it's, I desire to have more money, that can be a great goal. But if you're not feeling that first, then we are misunderstanding what true abundance is, right? True abundance is not having that only. And I think a lot of times people get stuck on that and end up feeling really empty and lonely because their target is in the wrong place.
What's the piece around problems that you see with our capitalistic culture and how they get us confused around our relationship with money?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in our society,
Just the way we do capitalism, I guess I would say.
yeah, because we do live in this world, right?
Right.
And we have to pay the bills. We can't pay, the bills with, confetti, right? Like we have to pay it with money. We have to do what we have to do. And also, right, like there's always like this simultaneous world going on, this spiritual world and the mundane world. I think that we live in a culture that's very obsessed with life force energy, that is very scared of death energy, that's very scared of cycles, that is terrified of things ending. And so we live in this culture, which is give me more, more, more. Yeah. Let's go out and get it. And we stay stuck there. And when that happens, we are not really remembering our true purpose here as spiritual beings on this earth. So, I mean, we see it everywhere. We see it in magazines, we see it in work, we see it in just the way we talk about money. I'm very aware, even with my daughter, of like talking to her about like this energy of abundance, how we can feel grateful for things, how we can feel expansive. And yes, we use this tool called money, but it's make-believe, right? And we assign the value to it. And in this world, we're not taught that. We're not taught that it's this make-believe thing that we, give power to. I actually remember being a little girl and telling my mom and taking a piece of loose leaf paper and being like, Mom, isn't it weird that people think that money is real? And she was like, money is real. I'm like, no, but Mom, hear me out. I'm like, it's a loose leaf piece of paper and someone said it's $1. Yeah. And now we're obsessed and children are dying because of it. I felt like I had discovered something. Like I was like, whoa, people are dying over a make-believe concept. And I was mind blown. And I remember being in like second grade and ripping the piece of paper and being like, it's make-believe. And so that has always stayed with me, this concept of like, being in both worlds, knowing that something is make-believe, but yet it's not because we've assigned value to it. And so how do we navigate those two worlds and come back to our true state? I do believe that we have far more people believing in the world of the mundane and less in the world of spirit, which is why I do encourage people to go back to, we've assigned the value to it.
Yeah.
How can we re-script what it means to us in this world? Yeah.
And for you, what was one of the most pivotal moments where you realized you were operating in the paradigm of unworthiness? And how did you begin to repair that or remember?
I'm like, girl,
I'm sure there's like a million stories, but which one do you want to tell today?
Let's see. I grew up in Bushwick in Brooklyn to a family with a lot of love and also a lot of abuse. And for me, that was the first moment where I realized this is not right. Like I was very aware, I knew something was not right. I knew that the way that they were acting was from a place of woundedness. I knew that that's not how you are supposed to treat a child. I knew that they were placing their fears onto me, their burdens onto me, their addictions onto me. And so that was the first core wound that I realized, and then playing out that wound, right? So for me, that looked like drinking and respecting myself when I drank. Going to places where I shouldn't have been going, staying out far too late, hanging out with the worst people. Like I could have closed my eyes, and at the time, like I could walk into a club, I would close my eyes and be like, who is the biggest, baddest drug dealer here? Where are you? You are for me. I could like smell him. I was like, oh, perfect. Like I knew the worst one was gonna be the one that I wanted, and that was from my wound. It was like the bloody wound going out there and choosing for me. And when I started to realize over and over again, because I had this other part of me, this spiritual part of me, this very, very connected, psychic, intuitive part of me, this loving part of me, this part of me that wanted to help people. But I was battling those two worlds for a long time. And I was in this war. And I remember seeing myself like drinking and acting out sexually and feeling like I don't love myself. And if I see this version of myself, which I did see, that I want to walk into, what will I choose? Will I choose to keep replaying this pattern, or will I choose something different? Ultimately, I chose something different, right? Like I went on the path of healing, got sober, but that role play of that wound with not loving myself as it relates to acting out and addiction it was one of my biggest teachers by far.
How did you get sober?
So
many different paths.
Yeah. For me,
What's
my
your
path,
story?
And I like to tell people there's so many different paths to get sober. If you're listening to this and you want to change your relationship to alcohol, let it be your own path. I am not a black and white person. I don't think that there is one way to do things. This is just my story. I remember writing down in the notes section of my phone. God bless the notes section of my phone. I have so much shit there. Like everything. And I'm
It's
like,
the archive.
right? It's the archive of like the deepest parts of my spirit. And I'm like, I wrote down, I think that I have a problem. Every time I drink, I do things that I regret. And I don't love myself when I do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember starting by, maybe I won't drink when I'm sad. Maybe I will just drink with friends, and maybe I'll just drink wine. And I started to do all those like little rules, and it didn't work. Ultimately, when I had one, I would have more. And so I wasn't like this typical drinker that was drinking every day. And I would have a moment and I wouldn't be able to stop. And so this idea of this alcoholic didn't fit what I was doing. And so I was like, well, maybe it's not that bad, right? We have a culture that also enables bad behavior and says it's totally fine. This is normal. It's fine. You're just living in the world.
Well, also because so much of the world is funded by big alcohol. I mean,
1000%.
we're back to capitalism.
Absolutely.
Or the toxic capitalism.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so I then walked into a room of AA. I raised my hand. It was a Upper East Side, late meeting. And I raised my hand and I said, hi, my name is Christine. I'm an alcoholic. I didn't really resonate with the language, but I knew it was a willingness to say that something's wrong. And in any moment in our lives, there is a choice and there is a humbleness that needs to be found, which says, this is the way that I am living. I don't like it. Something's wrong. And can I surrender? Can I let this go? And can I be guided by something bigger than me? And when I said that, day by day, things started shifting and I started doing the work and I started, realizing that there was another way to live. And so for me personally, it's not like I feel like I have to go to meetings to stay sober. Like my sobriety is deeply rooted in myself. However, I will say that those meetings and all of that program helped me. It was a moment of saying, I want another life. Mm-hmm. Like, will I choose a life based on my woundedness or will I choose a life based on my worthiness? And worthiness is always going to lead you to better, brighter, shinier doors.
Totally.
Always.
Yeah. My husband was a problematic drinker. And before I met him, and he also had, his own path where he just one day he decided to stop and eat it.
Yep.
And so I love that you're just really inviting. There can be, our culture loves dogma, right? In a traumatized culture and a traumatizing culture, we really go to black and white thinking. And we were talking before we reported about the beauty of nuance.
Absolutely.
And really being able to see all the shades of gray.
That's right.
So I love that invitation to just see, like, most people only know about recovery through AA. And I love that it was part of your journey, not the whole journey.
That's right.
There's so many different ways to go.
Yeah. As long as you are honoring what your spirit is telling you to look at.
Uh-huh.
If your spirit is telling you to look at something, heed the warning.
Yeah.
In any area of our life.
So you work, I know with all sorts of people, but often they're really high functioning, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't look at them and be like, wow, she really has a problem from the outside.
Yep.
And so what are some of the signs that, because a woman who is listening to this show and probably coming into your spaces is probably not on a daily basis thinking to herself, I don't feel worthy. Like, that's probably not actually the language. What are some of the more sneaky ways that show up in high functioning, or as our dear friend Terry Cole says, over functioning women that actually at the root are a lack of worth, but they might not know that. And maybe they've normalized and it's just like, well, no, this is just how life is.
Absolutely. Yeah. In the book, I talk about certain masks that we put on. And I think that, one of them is people pleasing, right? Like this mask of being a people pleaser and feeling like, if I do more, then I'll be worthy. If I say yes more, then I'll be worthy, especially in as a mother, as we take on these roles where we are giving so much of ourselves and realizing, like, how is this actually serving me? Am I over giving at the cost of myself and my spirit? One of my favorite authors and one of my dear mentors, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola, Estes, I had the honor of studying with her in person.
Wow.
And, we talk about, there's this beautiful story in Women Who Run with the Wolves about this seal woman. And she has to return underneath the water to the underworld in order to get her pelt back. And her pelt represents her soul skin. And it was taken from her. She was in this partnership for 7 years, and she must return to the underworld to go get her pelt back that was stolen so she can put back on her soul skin. And this is what we call soul theft. And there are many moments in our life where we have soul theft, where we will overgive, and it's like you're giving away pieces of your soul. Your pelt is gone. Or you are overworking, overfunctioning, and not giving yourself permission to really feel your feelings. A piece of your soul leaves your body. Being the kind of person that is only in the role of like this like virgin mother, but not honoring your whore, wild sexual primal self. Another way where you are denying your worthiness, right? To be this complete multi-dimensional woman. There's so many ways that we put on this mask, whether it's people pleasing, overgiving, playing this role of good girl. These are just some of the masks that we play. But in all those ways, when we put on masks, we give up a piece of our soul self. And you feel more brittle, you feel more dry, you feel less plump, you feel less alive, and you feel spiritually dead. And a lot of times women are not naming it as such because they're like, I am working hard and I am doing this and I am such a great mom and I'm such a great, and it's like, but are you alive? And so aliveness to me is a good prompt. Oftentimes I will ask like, how alive do you feel? What are the masks and what are the roles that you're playing? And when those good girl qualities come up, when the overgiving, when the people pleaser comes up, how can we notice? Because those are the ways that it comes up more easily. Maybe they're not like actively saying, I don't feel worthy.
Right.
But they don't feel worthy of the spaciousness to really not overgive and see how will I be met.
Yeah.
And I felt that way so many times. I felt like this hyper independence where it was like, well, I grew up in Bushwick, kind of like, a little bit like thug, where it was like, I got this, I can do this by myself. Yeah. I'm going to rise, I'm going to do this. And then you realize you're like, well, no, I'm not self-made. I need to be community made. No, I do need help. So a lot of times I see it more in those ways, this hyper strong woman that has lost the ability to be nurtured.
Yeah. And what about the split? Because I know part of your story is, you were getting a master's to be a therapist. You were like a really incredible student, incredibly smart, sort of type A. And then also there was this other part which we all have at all times. But it was like kind of like this split. How do you see that? I mean, how did that show up for yourself? And then how do you see that show up for women who are really good at looking like they have it together and really good at playing the game?
Yeah, I mean, well, the split is so important. I think that as we mature and as we are stepping more into the mature feminine, we really want to be the most authentically ourselves as we can be. And that takes a lot of being like a spiritual archaeologist and looking up like the bones of our past and really looking at what is me today in this season, because who I was last month might be dead. Am I giving permission to die and be reborn, right? And so for me, that looked like similarly what I shared earlier of having this double life where I was doing the master's and doing the thing. And that I do believe is part of that spirit-led life where your soul is like, this is who you are meant to be. This is your worthy woman self. And then you have the shadow side that's like the wounded one, the one that's like, am I deserving of those things? And that's choosing choices, thoughts, and behaviors that are more aligned to pain than to the higher self, right? For me, that looked like many things: drinking, acting out sexually, not loving myself, not choosing myself, codependency, and still simultaneously doing an amazing job in the world. Because it wasn't like everything was a shit show. It was not. And that is the problem, is that women get caught up on, well, things are not that bad. This is not that bad. What? Like, I have a relationship. It's not that bad. And that line for me is like the killer. It's not that bad. I don't want to just have it's not that bad. I want incredible. I want radiant. I want soul aligned. I didn't go through so much shit in my life to live a mediocre life. I did not, right? Like, it's like, if you've gone through shit in your life, you better work your buns off in order to be able to be like, you know what? Like, I deserve the best. Now, If you have a split life, whether that means you are you're working a 9 to 5 and you know that you're meant to do some weird spiritual job. It doesn't have to just be, maybe you're hiding behind a corporate job and you're not letting your like witchy weird side out, right? Maybe you are, tired of asking for less money and you want to own your worth and your wealth more. Whatever it is where you are playing small, that is an invitation for us to look at, who do I really want to be? And this is where that worthy woman self comes in, or that worthy self, where it's like, how can I envision this part of me? And what does she move like? What does she smell like? What does she act like? What is the swag that she carries? What is the values that she carries? How does she believe? What does she think? How does she move in the world? How does she respect herself and love herself? And what does she want? And then the biggest part of it is, how do I walk? I call it like walking. In Puerto Rico, we have a machete, but it can be a sword where you're like chopping through the shit and being like, what is bullshit here?
Yeah.
What are the fears? What are the lies? What are the identities and the parts of me that no longer need to exist for this next version of me in this season to rise? Because if you do not let things die, you will stay stagnant. And the new life cannot be born with the old life still holding on. And that's what people try to do. They're like, no. Yeah. Let me go with my dead skin from the old life into the new life, please, Yeah. But you can't. You have to let it all go.
And in that process, there are times when we won't have it together. And you said something so profound in your book, and I'm not going to quote it perfectly, but it was basically like, society only celebrates us for thriving.
Yep.
I was like, oh man, it was so profound, And so and so that can keep up the facade of like,
absolutely,
I'm going to stay in the split, because for a time when we are letting things die, shit falls apart.
That's right.
And you can't keep it all
I get chills.
together. And like, then we're not actually fine.
Yep. Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
And it's hard to show up at like the preschool drop off, or not that you have to like lay out your baggage at preschool drop off, but I'm just saying, right? It's or just wherever, at the potluck or the family dinner or your college, reunion or graduation. Nope. I mean, maybe, but like, right? Yeah. Like, or reunion, whatever, like all the places, because to just say, like, things are actually really hard right now. I was talking to a woman the other day who has a 6-week-old and a, toddler with an ear infection, and her husband just had a surgery. And I just was remembering so well having a brand new baby, having a toddler who was having a really hard time, and then having a husband who was really sick. And I was talking to this woman and I was like, I am talking to me 7 years ago. And like, she is rocking it. And I do not know her well enough to know how she's actually doing. I was actually drowning, but I had no idea.
Yeah. We have that in common because you didn't know fully, but a part of your body did. Yeah. The part of you that probably didn't fully accept it was the over-functioning part.
Totally.
The part that was like, you know what? This is just life. I have to just carry on. I have to be strong. I have to be superwoman. Because in some ways you had to, right? Like you had to for your child, right? Sure. And I similarly had a sick husband at the time who was unwell and postpartum, and I know that pain. And I remember actually speaking to another one of our good friends, Nisha, and we talked about like giving yourself permission to ask for help, giving yourself permission to break down. And going back to what I said in the book about, we live in a culture that celebrates only thriving. So what does it look like to thrive from a soul-led way? So for me, thriving is being in alignment with your soul. Mm-hmm. For me, thriving is listening to your soul when it says, let something die. When it says, let yourself be in the breakdown. That is true thriving. We've been lied to. Our society has lied to us. Spiritual concepts have lied to us. You are not thriving when you are just listening to the celebration moments, or when you're just, that's not it. True thriving on a spiritual level is being in that threshold between the old life and the new life and letting it be, letting it break down. Letting the old skins die, letting yourself be uncomfortable, letting it be messy. And what would happen, right, if you were given a medal? Every single time that you were going through a threshold from the old life to the new life, we got like the angels came down from the heavens. They were like, congratulations, you figured it out. Here's a medal. You get a medal for being in the messy in between. Mm-hmm. We would feel proud. We would feel like, holy shit, I'm doing this shit right. But we've been taught that that's not doing things right as a good human. We are not doing things right. And so we put on the facade and we wear the old skin longer, and you go to the preschool drop off and you pretend everything's okay and your husband's sick and you're holding it down and you're paying for bills. And you're like, no, everything's fine, when you're literally dying. But if we live in a culture, which is what my goal is with this book, with I Am Worthy, with all of the work that I do, which is to say, how can I be more honest with that part of us? How can I say, like, actually, you know what? I'm not okay. I'm in the messy in between. I'm letting things break down. And I know that I need support so that my new life can be born.
Yeah.
Then the worthy self can rise. We cannot be in our soul-led place on a bed of lies. We just can't. So I think that it's a really big thing for us as women, especially for women that are used to holding it down so much and holding so much. Because women, we hold so much. We hold so much. We need to let spirit hold us more. Mm-hmm. We need to let go. And there's going to be different seasons. Some are going to be harder than others. Some are going to have messier in-betweens. Some are going to have more blissful in-betweens. Like, I'm in a blissful in-between. Like, I can feel that there's more honey in this season, but there's some where you just have the machete and the sword and there's just blood.
I know.
And those are the
So
ones
hard.
that people are like, damn, I don't want to be here.
So something else came up. I just did a really big enrollment period and was talking to, thousands and thousands of people that I'd never met before. And a theme came up. And I want to know what you think about it as a therapist, with all the people that you work with. And that was, to some degree, on the one hand, our culture only celebrates thriving. However, many of us, this is actually not my example. This has not been true for me in my life. In my life, I've gotten love through achievement and thriving and having it together.
Yes.
So that's been my pattern that is sometimes toxic. I see for some folks, they actually have only received love and connection by always being on the struggle bus. And so their patterning is like, I'm always getting sick. I can never quite lift myself up. And because all my community connection, love and tending patterning was around struggle. So I'm stuck there. What do you think about that?
So important. For me, I work predominantly with Latina women, women of color, but all women. And I've seen this pattern happen. And what I often say is, it's important to go to the depths and to the shadows, but you don't want to live there. And what happens is when you overstay your place anywhere, it's bad.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that we are not in cyclical rhythm with life, death, rebirth patterns, that we overstay in many places. So whether you overstay in the obsession with success or you overstay in the obsession with the wound work and the pattern. So this is very important, is to notice, where are you on this spectrum? Are you the kind of person that feels like you are only getting your worthiness through success or validation? Or are you the kind of person that's only getting it through pain? Because you deserve pleasure, you deserve rest. We talk about this in this book too. You deserve rest. You deserve pleasure. And a lot of times, sometimes it's even easier, especially for people like where I've grown up, or people that have gone through profound traumas, which is very similar, is to say, oh, let's keep going here. It's like, life is meant to be fun. You're meant to have pleasure. You're meant to have fun. You're meant to laugh. You're meant to enjoy. What's the point of doing this work if you're just staying in the muck? So absolutely very important. And noticing, I call it like awakening that primal in you, whether it's your wolf sense or whatever you want to call it, smelling in your life, where have I overstayed? Where have I overstayed? Have I been doing this work for too much in the shadows? Can I let myself have more fun? Can I let myself have more pleasure? Or if it's about earning more and believing that it's like, no, you get to have that experience too. So I remind my clients often, and I've seen this so much with my community, of being like, it's your time to thrive. This is not the way. There's not just one way. You don't have to just keep doing the hard work. You get to thrive. And recently I had a conversation with one of my good friends about this point between the old life and the new life, when you're walking toward this highest version of yourself, worthy woman, where it's like, there's a new brand of fear, which is like, yes, you get to have fear, but it's the kind of fear that dances in more close union with pleasure. And so it's like, yeah, I'm scared, but I've already gone through this initiation so many times before that I can dance with pleasure more. You don't have to grieve for as long. Sometimes you can go through changes and it can be easier.
Yeah.
You get to make changes be easier. So I think people are also obsessed with hardship in some ways, giving the invitation to people to not be obsessed with hardship. Like, if you've gone through enough initiations in your life, use them, girl. Like, that's the whole point. If you've walked through the valley of the shadow of death and you've risen with gems, use those gems as fuel. So when you go through the next time of a challenging situation, you're like, oh, this can be easy breezy because I got me. Spirit got me. I'm okay. This is where I invite people to have the honey. So I mentioned that image of the machete or the sword, and my perfect visual for how I work is like honey. Like, you get to have honey too, and you get to move through these seasons with more grace and grit. So absolutely, to more pleasure.
It's so funny that you use the word honey, because I don't know if you have studied at all shamanic astrology, but in shamanic astrology, because you are a Scorpio,
Yes.
the Scorpio seeks the honey. Did you know? Like,
No,
do you
I didn't
know
know
this
that.
framework?
No.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I
but it
just
makes
love
sense.
that.
I love
I'm like,
it.
this is so
Yeah.
spot on for you. So keep going with
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay, so you were raised Catholic.
Yes.
And I'm curious if you can talk about any connection you see between religious programming around suffering and our feeling that we are not worthy of pleasure.
Yeah, the removal of pleasure and the obsession with sin has really done a number on us. And it has made us really talk about black and white, right? You're either the virgin or the whore. I have vivid memories of just this deep process of thought that my family carried as, like, this Puerto Rican Catholic people of, oh, you are bad. If you do this, and you actually chokers and all these kinds of things were like, this is, you're a slut or you're a good girl. And in the Bible, you have this obsession with renouncing the body, renouncing pleasure and pain and suffering. And suffering is the way to enlightenment. I also study Tantra, surprise, surprise, Scorpio, right? And there is a pleasure as a pathway to enlightenment too. There are many different paths to awakening. So with religion, we are dealing with a lot of deep, deep programming that is taking us away from the body. And especially as women, like, we need to be connected to the love of our body. We need to be connected to that the goddess lives within our body, that we deserve to have pleasure. But if we're told that we're bad for that, we will take that theme out of religion and put it everywhere. So I will suffer more. If I stay and suffer more in this marriage, then I'm good. I will receive God that way. I will be worthy then. If I suffer in my job and not ask for more money, then I'm a good girl. I've sacrificed for my sins. And we need to rewrite that to being like, how can I be in devotion to my soul? And I'm all about bringing us back into the body. For me, one of the deepest ways that I've remembered my worthiness has been the reintegration of the feminine back into the religion or spirituality, right? Because I love spirituality. I loved all the ways of connecting with God, but I knew that there was the feminine that was missing. And this is a very wounded version of the masculine in our Catholicism. It's the wounded masculine that is speaking. And we've removed so many, texts that would have provided us with peace, like the Gospel of Mary and so many different types of spiritually relevant, real research texts that remind women that there is no sin. In the Gospel of Mary, it literally says there is no sin. There's no sin. What would happen if little girls read that? But they were scared. And so they tried to control. And so I think that a lot of this is undoing the brainwashing. I call it like undoing the lies of unworthiness. And that comes from our deep programming. And religion is one of the deepest ways that we program. So asking ourselves these questions. What were the beliefs that I was raised with? How did that impact me? How did that impact my belief, my worthiness in my body to receive pleasure? How does this impact my belief of my deservingness to have to suffer more in order to have something? Is there another way? My invitation is to invite you to say, yes, there is another way. There has to be another way, a much more healthier way, much more grounded way, and an integrated version of the feminine and the masculine together.
I'm so curious. What do people come after you for the most? Like, what do you do or say that people take issue with? I don't know why that question occurred to me,
general,
but just in general, I'm so curious.
I think that,
and it may be that you don't actually attract much of that. Like, I don't get a lot of
I will say I don't
quote
attract
unquote haters or people taking issue. It's just
I don't
not
know
like
if it's
part of my
because
experience.
Scorpio
But
eye, they don't really.
I know totally. They're like,
They're like,
okay, I'm not gonna fuck with her.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. The Bushwick. They're like, this bitch doesn't seem like someone to say something much to.
I'm not gonna get up in her DM.
Yeah. So,
but I'm curious.
Honestly, genuinely, I'm gonna say in the 15 years, probably like 3 comments on a post, like literally,
like
none,
none,
like very low. And the thing that would happen would be not talking about issues enough, in the world.
Yes,
and
I'm familiar with that one.
And that is
people
something,
love to tell us what to do with our platform.
I do talk about issues.
You do.
And
oh my God, if you've read your books, like hello.
I'm like, hello. Welcome to my life. And I live it. But the thing is that I'm very big on living it. And I am the kind of person that I am a little bit more private about donations and about things that I do in the world. And there are moments and there are moments. And what I also have realized is that, and this has grounded me a lot, I have a family. When my daughter's father got sick, and when I was breastfeeding, I breastfed till 3.5 years old. Wow. So I was that mom, breastfeeding, writing a book.
So many calories.
Like all the things, right? And I was like, you can't tell me shit.
Totally.
Like literally, like I was just like, I am over capacity. You don't get to tell me shit because you don't know how hard my life is right now. And everyone has a hard life in their own way. And we must have deep compassion for people. We are not equipped, literally energetically equipped. Like imagine someone, like not in my case, but imagine someone that is being pressured and like you're telling someone to do something and they're struggling with mental health illness at home, right? To do that to someone is so cruel. And so my view on it is that I do believe we have a responsibility to be the voice of the mother, as I call it, la madre, right? I am a mother for all children. I believe in equality for all people. I want peace on earth. I am that person. That is why I do this work. I want peace on earth. I want love. I want compassion. I believe that doing this work can save the planet. I am that person. That is not something I can take away. That idealistic part of me, whether it happens now or 20 years from now, that is the goal of why I do what I do. I want more love and I want more peace, period. And that means that you have to speak up for things. Yeah. Also, I deeply believe that everyone has a unique song to sing in the world. Yeah. And everyone has a unique medicine to give. If I stay focused on my dharma and my purpose, I'm bringing the light to the world that God would have me bring to the world. I'm being used as a vessel. I believe that the people that are fighting the good fight and fighting in a way that's more aggressive, they are doing the good work. And I've been that person too. But there are seasons and there are seasons. So that would be the only moment. And I always usually respond, but if they're disrespectful, I block. I'm like, is my page, my house. Yo mando aquí. I tell you who's in charge here, okay?
So good.
Yeah, so that's about it. And I try to lead with love and I try to remind people like, hey, listen, like you don't know what I do behind closed doors. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I deeply care about all issues and I care about all people's perspectives and I try my best to be rooted in the heart in what I do. And I've had moments where I've messed up and I've had moments where I've lived into the hype of separation culture. And I've had moments where, and I speak on big things, that. I speak on things all the time. I talk about I'm like, oh my God, this white, spiritual culture, we need more diversity. But I'm nuanced. I love my girls as long as all people, if you're respectful to me, I like you. And so I think it's hard for people to hold the nuance that I carry because they're like, oh, but you're saying like you need more diversity. How can you be cool with these white girls in spirituality? I'm like, because they're people and they're nice to me. It's not or, it's and. Yeah. Inviting in deeper conversation and. So this has been my area and I love to remind people to listen to their spirit. The person that's in charge of them is God. Like ain't nobody else can tell me what to do.
It's so true.
Yeah. And I live to learn. So I like to learn and do things and always grow, but not from a place of pressure, from a place of like true sovereignty in my own spirit of what is right and wrong. And it's worked out. People get it. If you're listening to this podcast,
Yeah. And it's also like, that's a pretty powerful protective force field.
Yeah.
And because it is an energy that emanates and would not make you a match for a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. And I'm a true mama bear. Yeah. I am. And I love to protect, people in my spaces. And so I'm very protective of the energy that I bring into my space, especially because I do such deep trauma work and holding people with deep histories. I really like to keep the energy clean.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your relationship with money.
Yeah.
And the ways in which if you had any particular moments where you came up against that edge of expansion financially for yourself and how your own work with your worthiness helped you and in what ways?
This is such a big part of my work too, because in addition to the deep like spiritual healing and trauma work and rites of passage work that I do, a lot of it is also Latina, spiritual women, women of color that are therapists, nurses, or people that are wanting to start their businesses. And for me, I do hold a code of this, like, I am a Latina that believes that my good work is deserving of being compensated. And that was really hard to carry at first because I felt guilty. I was like, I'm a sellout, or like, I can't be this girl from Bushwick. This identity had me trapped. And I had to do a lot of work, a lot of tapping, a lot of somatic movement, a lot of affirmation work to really be like, if my work is doing good in the world, I deserve to be nourished. I cannot be nourished in the world that we work in and not be paid. I need to be highly paid for the good work that I do in the world. And so there were many times, I remember when I was first starting out and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna charge for this. And meanwhile, I had my master's and like, I also on a very practical level had a lot of training, right? Like I wasn't just like doing this spiritual work out of nowhere. I had a lot of years of training and education in this. And I was still scared. And I was still scared to be like, oh my God, I'm gonna charge. And I remember when I first started charging, I was like, oh my God, this feels good. It feels like an equal exchange. I like getting paid. I was like, oh, I like getting paid. And even saying that was like very taboo. I like money. I like being paid. And especially with my family, that they were like, oh, like, these are quieter things. Don't talk about this out loud. And I love taboo. Sex and money, give it to me all. Scorpio underworld, give it to me, baby. And I'm like, I can't not talk about it. I'm like, God is making me. I need to talk about this. If you are in a toxic, abusive relationship, what's gonna get you out is gonna be therapy, and you're gonna need supportive resources to get you out.
Oh, yeah.
If you are sick, talking about when we were talking about the situation with my daughter's father, money. All of these resources really ground you into realizing money helps you. It can give so much freedom. And my belief, more importantly, that I was worthy of it, I wanted that for my lineage.
Yeah.
I wanted that for me. And so I started playing with that concept. I started doing all the hippie things, lighting candles, doing ceremony, imagining the people walking. I could feel her. I knew her name. I knew what she did for work. And I was just like connecting to my soulmate clients. And I was like, they love paying me. They're obsessed with paying me. They feel so much joy in it. And my clients now, they'll be like, girl, I'm on a forever payment plan for you. Anything you want, I'm signed up for. And it was that mental, spiritual work. And a lot of times people think like, oh, this is like so out there. And it's like, actually, that is the work that helped me make money. Yeah. It was all the spiritual, energetic work. It was not the practical for me. The practical is now helping to support this next phase for me. That's where I'm at now. But a lot of it was, I'm deserving of getting paid.
Yeah.
I like money.
And to feel that.
To feel
not
it in my
just
bones.
To say it.
To feel it
but
somatically.
To know it.
To tap on it. To welcome it in. And being able to constantly increase it. And then when the numbers started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I was like, oh, I felt a hitting. I was like, oh no, wait, like, whoa, but that's too much. And especially my identity as a Latina woman, I was like, oh no, that's too much. And like, who am I to? And then I had to be like, who are you not to? And also, what can you do in your nervous system to help you feel that you have so much good work to do? You're helping other women, especially women of color, Latino women that are like, if she could do it, I can do it. If she can write a book, I can write a book. And that gave me a lot of inspiration to be like, I get to be a template in ways and share those codes with people to be like, you can do it. And I've seen it. And I've seen it even in Puerto Rico where, I've helped women that were, doulas that were making like, $2,000 a month to going to making $10,000 a month. And just seeing the power of the empowerment of that reminded me that like, oh, this is important. And everyone's number is going to look different. More and more and more is not better. But it's like, what is your true version of what helps you be nourished? Because the world is expensive. And if you are doing retreats, at the level that I do retreats, those venues cost a lot of money.
Seriously.
So
that's a tricky business model, my friend.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
Doing retreats, doing books, doing online courses. Like the online courses are the bread and butter, right? Because you don't have the overhead.
Hello. The margins are great.
Amazing.
But events
are much trickier.
I know, but they really move the needle for people.
They move the needle for people. And so you keep both because of that. And because I love it. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And so you have to be practical. And that was another thing I reminded myself of. If you are making more, you will be investing more. Yes. Be rooted in that. Be knowing of that. And so that means you need more. Right. And my dharma is to have that, right? Like, so not everyone's like codes want that, abundance. For me, I knew that it was an important part of my worthiness. And so me playing with my my worthiness wounds and converting them to worthy affirmations and really working with them allowed me to tap into that and getting the big book deals and doing all those things. And it's a gift. It's so fun. It's a game now. It's like I get to play this game. I get to play this game and I get to keep working on my worthiness. And every time you work on your worthiness in every area, everything gets better.
I know. It's amazing. And I love how tapped in you were as a little girl to like, money is pretend. This is make believe.
With a loose leaf.
And that now, you know, and that it's a game, because it is. And I say these things all the time. But I really love having guests on who say them also unprompted, because I'm like, that means it's true.
Yeah.
You and I come from really different backgrounds with really different educational histories. Like we've had really different experiences. And if we have both come to the same conclusion, it is true.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, I'm not saying that it's not harder, and I talk about that in the book for some people to achieve and have, but I don't think that that means that you can't have different access points of worthiness. Like, maybe that means that it won't look a certain way, but that does not, no one can take away your inherent worth. And so it will look very different. If you are in a war-torn country, if you are living it with an abusive partner, it's going to look different. But ultimately, what I know to be certain for sure is the moment you work on your worthiness, period, there is a sense of peace and a sense of calm that you can have in the storm. Yeah. And that to me is the most important. The outside things are the bonus, but the inside feeling of that connection is going to save your life.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It is absolutely everything. Thank you so much for being here today. This was such a good conversation. So everybody listening, get yourself a copy of I Am Worthy. Is there a special place you want them to go to get the book?
Yeah, but I don't know that
we don't know it today. And so we'll add that in the show notes later.
Perfect. Yes.
But it's called I Am Worthy, Break the Spell of Unworthiness, Reclaim Your Divinity, and Unearth Your True Power by Christine Gutierrez. Her other book is I Am Diosa.
Yes.
And where should people come find you to connect and learn more?
You can connect with me on Instagram at Cosmic Christine and my website, christineg.tv.
Amazing. Thanks for coming.
So happy to be here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Plenty. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. That's one of the best ways that you can ensure to spread the abundance of plenty with others. You can even text it to a friend and tell them to listen in. And if you want even more support to expand your abundance, head over to katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs, where you can grab my free money breakthrough guide that details the biggest money breakthroughs from some of the top earning women I know, plus a mini lesson accompanying it with my own biggest money breakthroughs and a nervous system healing tool for you to expand your abundance. Again, that's over at katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs. See you next time.